When we sold our house to travel full time, we thought we were getting rid of chores.
No more mowing the lawn, no more cleaning out the gutters, no more snow, and no house projects waiting for us on a Saturday morning.
But the chores didn't disappear. They moved on to our laptops.
The banks still need a US address, and our credit cards still need a phone number that can receive verification texts.
We still have to file taxes, track visa days, renew insurance, manage prescriptions, and make sure one missed email doesn't become a bigger problem later.
We just didn't know how much time it would take to keep all this organized.
A lot of full-time travel seems simple from the outside. Coffee, trains, walks, a new city. A lot of it is also us just sitting in an Airbnb with a spreadsheet open, keeping the systems working so that this life doesn't fall apart in the background.
Selling the house didn't mean that our US lives disappeared. It just meant that we had to rebuild the parts that the house quietly held together.
The first piece was the address, because once the house was gone, the address function had to be replaced. When you have a house, you have an address, and it works for everything: banks, taxes, insurance, licenses, government records.
Yeah, if you sell your house, you need another way to provide that address. And the easiest option is a trusted family member or friend who can receive your mail for you, which is what we do. If that's not available, the next option is mail forwarding or a domicile address service, the kind of services that they set up for the RV community.
That usually means choosing a state, setting up the service, and finding out where that address will and won't be accepted.
Yeah, so the address isn't just a place where the mail goes, it becomes the anchor for a lot of those other systems that still expect you to have one.
Banks are where the address issue gets more complicated, because the address they use to identify you isn't the same as the address they send you mail. Your residence address is where the bank believes you actually live. That's tied to identity, checks, compliance, taxes, and account eligibility.
And your mailing address is where the bank sends statements, tax forms, replacement cards, and notices. Family address, a PO box, a virtual mailbox, and a mail forwarding service might work for the mail, but it doesn't always work
for official residence address. So don't expect every bank to accept it. Double check before you leave the United States.
And that's why it's not something that we want to figure out the first time when we're already having an account problem.
Yeah, we're using a family member right now, so it's not a concern for us today, but it might be down the road.
Yeah, credit cards bring up a whole separate version of the same problem. A card might work online, but a physical replacement card still needs an address somewhere.
So the bigger issue is what happens when a card is lost, stolen, frozen, or needs to be replaced while you're not in the United States. You need to request a replacement, report the fraud, and figure out where that card is actually going to go.
So you need that family member or a friend or a service that can accept it for you while you are out of the country.
So having multiple cards for multiple issuers really matters, because you don't want one problem to interrupt everything else.
Yeah, for us, the question isn't which card earned the most points, is where a replacement card goes and where one card problem can derail the rest of the whole setup.
A phone number is another piece that seems small until you realize how many accounts use it to prove who you are. Yeah. It's not just for calling people anymore. It's used for banks, insurance, text verifications, basically your whole identity for everything nowadays.
We kept our T-Mobile family plan and made sure that it would let us use data while traveling without the $10 a day charge that we used to pay with Horizon for international travel.
You can also set up Google Voice or a VoIP account, but make sure it works with your banking before you leave. Not all of them do what you need overseas.
Yeah, an eSIM can save you money too, but for us, the convenience of keeping our T-Mobile plan is worth it, at least for now.
Yeah, so keeping a US number isn't really about making phone calls. It's about keeping access to the accounts that still expect that number to work.
Taxes and residency records are the paper version of your life that still very much matter.
Yeah, selling the house doesn't remove the need to file US taxes. The bigger issue is how your life is still anchored to the United States on paper. So you've got taxes, registration, driver's license, and banking all need to line up.
And for us, that means thinking about whether Massachusetts remains the right residency anchor while we travel full time.
If we used a domicile mailing service instead, we'd have to reconsider and pick another state. And so for now, we're happy to stay Massachusetts residents while we still can, and we'll figure out the rest when the time comes.
Now, it's important to have all of those addresses, your licenses, and the banking accounts telling the same story with the same address.
And then there's the mail, because not everything important can become digital just because you sold the house.
Now, we're paperless for everything, but you're right.
So the United States Postal Service will forward your mail for a limited time, but that's a temporary bridge while you set up your real address situation. And it can also forward mail digitally for a while, depending on where you're set up, something we lost access to once we moved into our apartment, which was a bit of a letdown, because even a virtual mail service can't handle everything.
Yeah, and sometimes it isn't just a letter that you can read online. Sometimes it's like a big package or a replacement credit card or something that you need to actually sign, or even more importantly, like a government notice that you need a real address for.
So the question isn't who can scan your mail, it's who you can trust to receive the mail that can be scanned.
Even though we're not living in the US right now, a lot of our account records, mail, and access still depends on having a working US setup.
So once the US setup exists, the next job is making sure we have access to everything wherever we are. And by access, that means passwords, strong, unique ones, with both of us able to get into the accounts that we share.
Yeah, you can use a password manager, maybe is the best way to make sure that you're never without access, and it should encrypt everything no matter what. We both have access to all of our accounts, and we keep everything as a backup outside of the password manager too.
Yeah, one lost or forgotten password can really screw up your banking or your travel plans. So this isn't just about being organized. It's about making sure one forgotten password doesn't turn into a banking, insurance, travel, or government access problem.
Now, two-factor authentication is another thing that sounds simple until the code goes to the wrong phone or the wrong device or even the wrong person. So set up your two-factor apps before you go, write down your backup codes, set up your trusted devices so that you're not testing any of this for the first time when you're on the road.
Yeah, the time to set up backup codes, authenticator apps, and shared access is before something breaks, not while you're trying to fix it from overseas.
And keeping a US phone number connects right back to all of this because plenty of US accounts still expect one.
Even when your password is right, though, these accounts can behave differently when you're logging in from another country. So just logging in from a new country, a new device, a different browser, or with a VPN turned on can be enough for an account to stop you and ask for extra verification.
Yeah, we use NordVPN whenever we're connecting to any of our banking or insurance or medical accounts, partly to keep those things encrypted and partly because we know these accounts seem to prefer logging in when you're inside the United States.
So before you leave, it's worth testing the important ones: your banks, your cards, your email, and making sure your authenticator app and your VPN are already working the way you need them to.
Yeah, none of this looks dramatic from the outside, but losing access to even one important account can really put a damper on things while you're traveling.
The part that's changed our daily thinking the most is immigration, because full-time travel turns calendar days into something we have to manage.
Yeah, we never had to count travel days before. We were always just on vacation. We never were even gone that long.
So the first question is, which set of rules applies to us? Every country and region has its own visa rules, and we're currently on a one-year France visa. We've applied for renewal. If that comes through, France stays easy for us. If not, we have to track our Schengen days and plan around those limits if we want to stay in Europe.
And then we'd be doing the Schengen Shuffle, which could actually be a little fun.
That changes how we think about where we go and for how long. And once we know which rules apply, the next question is whether the actual itinerary fits inside them.
Flight date, an apartment check-in, an apartment checkout, all of that affects how many days we've used in a country or a region.
Booking isn't just about price, convenience, or where we want to go next. The dates have to work with wherever it is we're trying to go. We haven't had to change our plans yet because our France visa has covered us, and we've spent the year traveling around France.
Yeah, but if that changes, we'll have to pay a lot more attention to how long we are staying in each country and plan further ahead for what's coming up next.
Yeah, so the calendar isn't just where are we going next anymore. It becomes, are we allowed to be there at that time? And how many days will that leave us to come back another time?
The document side of immigration matters just as much because you can't have those original documents sitting in a sock drawer somewhere. You're going to have them on you. Yeah, we keep everything electronically either as PDF or we email them to each other, we save them to each other's phones, we keep them on a hard drive, everything's backed up.
We also carry a USB key with us so we can make copies or print whatever's needed for visa requirements.
Super important.
You can bring that into almost any print shop and get copies on the spot.
So the goal is simple. If we need to prove who we are, where we're staying, what coverage we have, or what application is pending, we need to be able to find it from anywhere.
Now that our dates are in order and our documents are in the right place, we need somewhere to track all of it properly. A full-time travel calendar has to track more than just where you're sleeping next. It needs visa information, entry and exit dates, renewal deadlines, travel confirmations, accommodation proof.
This is where tools like TripIt, Google Sheets, and spreadsheets come in very handy.
Yeah, we use TripIt to track our plans. Every confirmation email goes straight there, and it lines everything up to show us where we should be, when, and who with. We also use Google Drive to upload our confirmations so we have them on hand if anyone asks for proof of where we're supposed to be. And TripIt feeds into Google Calendar that we share with our family so they always know where we are.
Yeah, the goal is to avoid having to guess about any of it. Everything that we planned months ago is at our fingertips at any time.
So we're not choosing places based only on where we want to go next. We're factoring in the visa rules and whether our France visa gets renewed.
Either way, we're moving forward and going to places that we want to visit. And if the renewal comes in, that's great, because there is so much more of France that we still want to see.
Money also became a lot more active. Once we started moving between countries, currencies, cards, and banking systems, the first money change is that we still track everything in US dollars, even though we're spending in other currencies.
Exchange rates change what things actually cost. And one bad decision about when to exchange money can mean foreign transaction fees if you're using the wrong card, or ATM's fees if you're withdrawing at the wrong time.
When we transfer funds from our US accounts into an account in whatever country we're in, using Wise or Revolut, waiting for a better exchange rate can change what the same purchase ends up costing us.
Yeah, so if something that we now have to watch and be careful not to overspend without realizing it.
Credit cards aren't just payment tools for us anymore. They're part of our backup system. We use them for everything. So we have to make sure we always have multiple cards available because anything can happen to any one of them.
Cash isn't our primary way of paying for things, but we still use it every now and then. So we need an ATM strategy too. Taking cash out of an ATM can come with all kinds of fees. So you want to use the right card. You want to decline that currency conversion, and you want to make sure that you're not getting a bad exchange rate for the cash that you get out.
We transfer most of our funds using Wise into Revolut, or just Wise if that's what we need. And if we do need an ATM, we make sure we're using a card that won't charge us a high exchange rate, and we never, ever choose the dynamic conversion option.
Yeah, the whole point is not ending up at a machine, tired, just wanting your cash. And then realizing too late that it's offering you a terrible conversion rate.
Selling the house got rid of some bills we were happy to say goodbye to, like the mortgage and the mortgage insurance, but it didn't get rid of all of them. We still have health insurance, subscriptions, and credit cards to manage from back home. And those cards expire. So we have to track that and check that any charge coming through is accurate. There's a lot of administration that goes along with all of this, and none of it disappears just because you sold your house.
We have to make sure that everything gets paid on time and that we're not missing any deadline.
That we're tracking any expirations coming up and that we're paying attention to anything our bank flags so we stay on top of all of it.
And then there are subscriptions, the quiet little ones. While we still had the house, we would take stock every once in a while.
Are we still using this? Are we still using that?
Yeah.
We still need to do that while we're traveling. So Figuring out what we need to keep and why, whether it's still serving a purpose, and making sure nothing auto renews on us when we're planning to cancel.
That includes our phone plans, our credit card fees, and making sure that we're getting the best price for everything. Fraud and security are a top priority when you're moving from country to country. You want to be paying attention and noticing the alerts that you're setting up. Once an alert comes in, clear it. So that way your cards and accounts stay available to you all the time.
We monitor every transaction every day. Whatever card we're using gets checked daily, and the ones we're not using get checked every couple of days, just to make sure nothing slipped through.
Yeah, the goal isn't to panic over every single alert. It's just to catch it early, because the worst time to deal with a fraud alert is when you're standing in front of a gate of something trying to board like a train.
Budget tracking is one of those administrative chores you carry with you from your old life. But the difference when you're traveling full time is that you're tracking two sets of budgets. One is your monthly day-to-day spending. The other is the deposits and advance payments, booking accommodation, paying now for things you won't use for months.
And you always want to pay your cards off in full.
So you have to keep track of what deposits you've made, what's still owed, and then turn around and pay your regular monthly bills on top of that and make sure it all lines up. So we don't really ask whether one month was more expensive than the other. We look across spending for the entire year to make sure it still works within our travel lifestyle.
Yeah, it's not that we're dealing with money every minute of every day. It's just that watching it really becomes a lot more important now than when it was when we only had one house in one country and one set of bills.
And then there's the planning, because full-time travel isn't something you plan once and then leave alone. You're never only living in your current place, you're always planning for the next one too, and that takes time. So we've had to sit down and figure out where we're going next. And we didn't realize it at first that this would become a chore, but it has.
Yeah.
We're always looking 1 to 2 to 3 months ahead, past whatever's already on the calendar.
Yeah, where do we want to go? What's the visa requirement? How long can we even stay there? And then it's, what neighborhood do you want to be in?
That's something we always look into.
Yeah.
And once we've decided that, we have to figure out where we're staying, Airbnb, booking.com, what's it going to cost. It's somewhat never ending.
Yeah. And we'll be walking to the grocery store and suddenly remember, wait, did you look up the trains?
We've had to sit down and basically hold a meeting about where we're heading next.
Yeah. It's a cool, pleasant chore to have. Let me tell you, it's not too bad, but it's still a chore.
It's an always be planning kind of thing. And that's exactly what it's like now. So yes, we got rid of mowing the lawn, cleaning out the gutters, and shoveling snow. And those Saturday morning house projects we really dreaded. But that doesn't mean we got rid of the responsibility.
Yeah, we just traded it in for another kind of one.
We love our full-time travel life. For us, it's still worth it. We just know now that the travel part only works if the practical systems keep working too.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.